Alright, I'm not going to waste your time today. I have some start-sit options for Week 4. We need to get back in the win column, so that's on today's show. Drop any additional players down below. And without further ado, this is the Anomaly Podcast. Let's start off with a quick little recap. Alright, starting off with a quick little recap here from Week 3. Of course, we have to check our work, as on the screen here you see the 12 players we mentioned in last week's video. 12 out of the 12 players, we got 7 of them right, at least I would say. As you have guys like Drake London who put up 4 points. I said to sit him after a monstrous Week 2. He underperformed. On the flip side, you had guys like Jerome Ford have a pretty good week in his debut as a starter. So throughout the week, or throughout this video last week, I guess my biggest hit would be Sam Laporta. We have 3 shakies in there where I can see either side of it. If you said I missed it, then okay, I missed it. For a guy like Kyren Williams, for example, right outside of a running back 2. But he still had about 7.5, 8 points depending on your format. But let's go over here to Week 4, starting off here with Russell Wilson at the quarterback position. After losing by 50, this week screams like a bounce-back week for Denver. At least you would think, as Russ, since the firing of Nathaniel Hackett last year, he's averaged about 19 points a game from Week 16 from last year on, going into this year. He's also thrown for at least 300 plus yards in the last 2 games, as well as a pair of touchdowns in each of the last 2 games as well. He's playing a dismantled Bears team and Bears defense that has allowed the 5th most passing yards, and they are tied for the 3rd most passing touchdowns allowed this season. This is a Bears defense that has given up 38 points in Week 1, 27 in Week 2, and 41 big ones there to the Chiefs in Week 3. I know it's risky, but if this Denver team and offense can't get back on the right track with this matchup, you might just go after Caleb Williams at that point. Dak Prescott, we're going to sit him this week. He's currently the quarterback 25 on the season. It's safe to say that Dak isn't really winning us anything but last place in our fantasy leagues right now if you're starting him on a week-to-week basis, as this Dallas' team success has been centered around the defense and the run game. And that shouldn't change this week against a stingy Patriots defense, as the Patriots have held elite quarterbacks like Jalen Hurts and Tua to 12 and 13 points this season, and that was in back-to-back weeks. Of course, last week they got a bit of a break there with Zach Wilson, and I don't really have a stat, right? But I would assume that the Patriots have had the best overall defense against the quarterback position this season, if not at least the most impressive, holding guys like Hurts and Tua to under 13 points. I do think Dallas will bounce back after that loss last week to Arizona with a win and get back on the right track, but it's just not going to be on the back of Dak. Yeah, you see what I did there? But sit Dak Prescott this week. At least if you have another option, I would go that route. At the running back position, we are going to start here with Brian Robinson, and I've loved playing Brian Robinson this year. Even against a solid Bills defense last week, he still averaged like 7 yards a carry and gave us 7 to 10 points depending on your format. However, I'm going to sit him this week against the Eagles defense, as the Eagles have allowed just 120 rushing yards this season throughout 3 weeks, and that is the second fewest in the NFL, I think, aside from the Browns. Not to pat our own back there, but this is a team that's only giving up about 2.5 yards a carry to the running back position, and the Eagles have yet allowed a rushing touchdown this year. It's an extremely tough matchup for Brian Robinson, even though I love the player, but there's also a chance that this game gets out of hand because Philly's the most complete team in football, and they might get up early, or get up big early like they have in the first couple weeks, and that would, logically would be an Antonio Gibson game more so than a Brian Robinson game due to the passing work that Gibson would get. I love B-Rob, again, like I've said, but I would go with a different option this week if you can do so, because it's just a safer play here against the Eagles defense. Zach Moss, no doubt we're going to start him this week, as he was a top 12 running back this year, despite not even playing Week 1. I doubted him last week, I said to sit him, and he may have had his best game on the year, but he put up his second 20-point game this season despite not playing Week 1. So 2 games this year, 2 20-point performances. He is a top 12 running back because of that this season. Last week alone, if we look at his volume, he had 30 carries for 120 rushing yards, 2 receptions, 23 yards through the air, and a receiving touchdown on 3 targets. So insane numbers. He's getting the volume there if it's Gardner Minshew or if it's Anthony Richardson at the quarterback position. His 27 touches a game leads the league, And that should continue again, no matter who the quarterback is going into the Week 4 matchup. Start Zach Moss this week. It doesn't matter who he's playing. He's going to get that volume, at least through the air, if not on the ground. Javante Williams here against Chicago. We already started Russell Wilson. I'm a big fan of Denver this week after a 50-point blowout. But Javante has led the Broncos in snaps and touches this entire season over a guy like Samaje Perine. So it's good to see him back on the field after his injury late last year. But this start this week is all about the matchup for Javante, as the Bears have allowed 100 rushing yards per game to the running back position this year, and they just allowed 4 rushing touchdowns last week to the Chiefs running backs. This is a solid running back 2 play in Javante, or like a flex play there if you have 2 flex spots. I would start Javante Williams this week, as it might be a breakout game for this season for Javante. At the wide receiver position, we're going to start here with DJ Moore, and there's no doubt that something is wrong in Chicago. It all starts with the quarterback position. No doubt there is. There's a lot of tape out there and YouTube videos. I see people on TikTok breaking it down all the time, but Justin Fields has missed a lot of throws this season, and he's struggling to read a defense for whatever reason. And with that being said, though, their offseason acquisition, their big offseason acquisition to help Justin Fields improve as a passer, DJ Moore, he's actually been okay this year. He's barely finished outside of the top 12 the last 2 weeks, so he's been okay at the wide receiver position. However, this Chicago's team is playing a Denver team that is just as desperate for a win as Chicago. And though it may look like a good matchup for Justin Fields and DJ Moore to finally get on the right page and for this offense to explode, DJ Moore's going to have to deal with Pat Surtain all game. And Patrick Surtain, in my opinion, PS2 is the best corner in the NFL, the best man-to-man corner in the NFL. And even though this Broncos defense just gave up 70 points, if Patrick Surtain is matched up with DJ Moore all game, like he should, and given the fact that Justin Fields has struggled this year, I like my chances trusting the best corner in the game in the matchup against DJ Moore. At the other wide receivers, we have a guy like Tank Dell, and there's no shocker that Tank Dell is CJ Stroud's favorite target so far this year. Maybe it's because of their red zone dance, but they might have the best red zone dance in the NFL, and Tank Dell should definitely be a start this week. He has seen now 17 targets over the last 2 weeks, and he has gotten over 20 fantasy points in both of those games. He is simply seeing too much volume and too much production he's getting from that much volume to bench at this point in the season, especially if you're 0-1, or 0-2, excuse me, or 0-3. This is a guy that you need to plug into your lineup because this is a team that simply has too much passing volume. CJ Stroud has thrown 120 passes throughout the first 3 games. That's 40 a game, and I'm no mathematician. But a lot of those targets of the 40 a game are going to Tank Dell, especially when it comes to the red zone. This is an offense that's also playing a Pittsburgh defense that has allowed the 5th most yards to wide receivers this year. So Tank Dell, to me, is no doubt a surefire start. I do also believe that Nico Collins will have a bounce-back week and should play this week in your lineups. However, I gave the edge to Tank Dell because Patrick Peterson will be having the Nico Collins assignment. But Tank Dell, no doubt, should be a start this week. Calvin Ridley, this one might be obvious. You're saying this is a 3rd, 4th round pick. Obviously, we're starting Calvin Ridley. But after 2 down weeks, I've seen some people starting to doubt the talent and the production of Calvin Ridley and whether they should start him or not. Look, Calvin Ridley has disappointed since his great week 1 outing. But he's also narrowly missed a touchdown in the last 2 weeks. As in week 2, he couldn't get his feet down, and last week he just couldn't get his hands on the ball. A little bit of an overthrow there from Trevor Lawrence. But the Jags have definitely had a slow start to the year, no doubt about it. But they still have all the tools to be one of the best passing offenses in the entire NFL. And the best option on this team, no matter what, will be Calvin Ridley if this team can turn it around. He's playing his old team on top of that. In London. We know the Jags play better in London. You know this team is going to try and feature Calvin Ridley in a game like this against his old team. And I think this is the perfect game for Duval to get back on track, especially for Calvin Ridley. No doubt, I'm going to say a 20-point performance here for Calvin Ridley in Week 4 in London for the Jaguars. But if you want to be involved in these videos, go over to my Instagram, follow that, and every single week I drop a poll. I ask you guys to drop 10 or 12 players or just drop a player, and I get a list from your guys' answers. And these are the players that we talk about in the videos today. So, at the tight end position, talking about it, I expected this as a Cleveland Browns fan. But this old school style of AFC North matchup, the Browns and the Ravens, it's going to be highlighted by the defenses. And David Njoku has already not had the greatest start to the season, and now he has to face that stingy Baltimore defense that has only allowed the second least amount of yards to the tight end position this season. I really expect this game to end in like a 17-10, 17-13 final. Really just an ugly grit and grind game. So unless you believe that David Njoku can find his way into the end zone in this game, I think it's just a safer way to go with other guys this week that might be on your bench. Maybe go with a Jake Ferguson, or maybe go with a Gerald Everett on Sunday. There's other guys here that I would trust more this week than David Njoku, and that's really all it comes down to. But that is going to do it. I don't want to hold you guys for long. I'll see you guys next Tuesday. Of course, if you enjoyed at any point, support us down below on the road to 1,000 subs. We can't get there without you guys, and you guys have showed a lot of support this year. So shout out to you guys, and we'll see you guys Tuesday. So good luck to your real life team and your fantasy teams this week. I'll see you guys then. Stay happy, stay healthy. We're out.